A few weeks ago, I contacted a friend of mine because I've been seeing lately on a lot of social media and a lot of different feeds this idea of leisure wear as everyday wear. This is something that I've always loved because I'm all about comfort and I'm also about functionality, but also looking chic is very important to me. I like to look like I care. So I decided to get with my friend who we both have such a mutual love for fashion and culture, and we've just have this like meshing of minds on the topic of just extravagant things and beautiful things. And one of the things that we both love is caftans, and this is really kind of what kick-started the whole thing. Is we both share this very this deep appreciation for caftans. And, we're going to kind of, not really sure where the conversation's going to go, but we, just wanted to kind of create a discussion around what seems to be, becoming, I don't want to say a trend, because it's not my favorite word, but something that seems practical right now, something that makes sense for, where we're at. So I'd like to introduce my friend, Charles Lord. He is a wonderful maker of so many things, caftans really being his just absolute forte. So, welcome, Charles.
Well, thank you for having me, Aria.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
I'm honored to be asked.
Yes.
The first guest.
I'm honored to have this conversation. So, we're going to be a little off the cuff here, kind of talking about what I feel right now is important for us as the world turns, I guess.
That's a good way that is a good way of putting it. Because the world is turning.
Things are turning, things are churning.
Yes.
So, like I mentioned before, leisure wear is it's becoming more of a mainstream thing.
Right.
I've always loved the concept of having nice things that can be comfortable too.
Of course. I think that's so important to American culture in general. I mean, that's kind of where, American design has always been had a more comfortable element to it, like woven into the designs, even from the fabrics that American companies produced. And there's just,
functionality.
There's a functionality in there.
Yeah.
I mean, rayon is. Yeah. It's the functional, washable silk. So, it's there. And so, it's very important. And I think, athleisure is a huge category in the apparel market right now.
Yes.
And so I think people want to, feel comfortable, but still look good. I think that's a pretty consistent desire. I think what makes you and I different is that there's more of an emphasis on the looking good than the just purely comfortable aspects of it.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do both.
I think so too. I think there's so much room for, obviously we all have our moments where, we're just lounging at home and we have that kind of, I will admit that I do have my comfy pants, you know what I mean? But I also and I feel like where we're at right now, we do still want to be around our friends, and we want to, entertain sometimes, or even just a trip to the grocery store, has kind of become an event, in so many different ways. So I feel like it's at least for me, putting forth a little bit of an effort, or at least something doesn't have to be something that's a prom gown, but something that kind of gives you that.
Well, I don't see the problem with prom gowns for the grocery store. Why not?
That's how I roll.
Why don't you?
More is more,
After you've worn it to the prom, what else are you going to do with it? Why not wear it to the grocery store,
So, so I think that's really, where I feel like when we first met, like that was one of the first things. It was like the what do you call it? Like the meshing of the minds. There was just that, like, appreciation for the caftan,
right.
and like there was a moment that I remember I had a conversation.
Well, the caftan, but also like the caftan, but I think, at least as I recall it, it's the caftan as a moment within vintage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because obviously, you being a vintage dealer, my love for all things vintage and, but especially fashion, that's where we connected.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yes, the caftan definitely sort of became the emblematic
for sure.
Garment or look of that, because we both, I mean, besides the fashion, like even our styles of decor are very similar. I still remember the first time I came to your house and I was like, yes, this space,
this person,
this space, like it all makes sense. There's all, an aesthetic
There's an understanding
code
there.
And
well, I remember, I was like going back in my mind, I remember there was a time when, I don't know if you remember this conversation, but like after I had the baby, my youngest, and I was like, I'm never wearing a caftan ever again. And you were like, oh yes, you will.
Yes, you will.
Like it's like, how can you not? They're just amazing. So and two, like, I guess talking about too, like some options, things. I'm all about options. Talking about things that are wearable right now for different scenarios. Like I mentioned earlier, like I love like newer pieces mixed in with vintage pieces and styles and cuts and silhouettes, because let's face it, we're all different. We all have like different,
right,
shapes and styles. And now, it being summer, fabrics are becoming lighter.
Yes.
I'm a print fanatic, so whenever I can integrate a print somewhere like that, to me it's like, it gives me that.
I mean, there's nothing like the excitement of finding a new print.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It just sort of speaks to you and it just leaps at you.
It gives
like
you
this
that.
one I found not last year, 2018 in Spain, in Seville. In Seville, Spain, or Sevilla, Spain, and it just leapt. It was a fabric store, and I was like,
it's newer fashion, like it's a newer.
Oh yeah. This is one of my designs, I pretty much knew when I bought it. I was like, this is going to be some kind of caftan.
So you found the fabric. And you made the caftan.
Yeah. Usually with caftans,
that's how it is.
That's how it works. I mean, because it's such a basic silhouette. I mean, it's all about the caftan. And I mean, as someone who loves fabrics and loves texture and loves prints and color and all of that, that's part of why I love caftan so much, because it's very simple, it's very clean, and then all of the emphasis comes from the fabric itself, how the fabric drapes or falls, and if it's a stiffer fabric, how it has, it stands sort of away from the body. If there's embroidery or whatever. Yes, exactly.
I mean, it really can be anything. Yeah, which I think is such a cool thing about your brand, is that it can be anything. It's very custom, Yeah. Somebody could even bring a fabric to you or a scarf or something, right? And say, make this for me.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I like working that way. I like working from a standpoint of a particular person, a particular client or particular occasion, particular fabric. Like it gives, because I mean, I'm a creative person, so I can go anywhere, and I can design anything. So it sort of is it helps when I have some parameters, but then it's perfect when I have some parameters, but then they're like, do whatever, like I just want it in this fabric, and then I can figure out like, okay, well, what does this fabric say to me? And that's usually what I do, whether I'm working for a client or doing something for myself or doing something for a collection or whatever. I usually look at the fabric first and then kind of see what it wants to be and how, what that, I say it speaks to me. The fabric speaks to me.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, that's what design should be. It should be part of like your intuition, and instinctually what, and fabric plays such a huge part, and like, should this be short? Should it be long? Should it be long sleeve, short sleeve? Like the possibilities are just so endless.
Exactly.
So,
I recently made a caftan for a client, similar in cut to this, but it was a little bit slimmer. The sleeves weren't quite as big, and we definitely didn't argue about it. We were in sync with the whole thing, but he wanted the sleeves not to be quite as big because he said he thought he was too clumsy for it. I was like, you're crazy, but okay, sure. But the reason why I was advocating for a fuller sleeve is because the print was so amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you want to get as much of this print as possible.
Yeah.
But it came out extremely well. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Ooh. I want to see that one. So I thought, kind of the flow of this would be, you could show, some of your pieces and
awesome.
kind of give the audience a little bit of an idea of like some cuts and some, just options. And I will do the same. I've really been like enjoying. I don't know. I hope it brings other people as much joy as it brings me. Like I've just really loved like talking about these clothes,
right.
That are just kind of in my world that I'm like, they need to be seen, So yeah, I thought it would be fun if like, we could show some pieces and just, have some fun.
Yeah,
have
of
some
course.
Fashion fun.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Because that's what it is,
Yeah.
For me, like fashion is so fun. It gives me that like sense of hope.
Right. I mean, it has to. I think for those of us who breathe fashion, it is our breath. I mean, it's what gets us out of bed in the morning.
It's what
makes the day. Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
You and I in our text exchanges, like, oh my God, check this out. We've got, it definitely, like, I guess we all have our own things that.
Totally. And I mean, everyone has that. I hope everyone has that thing that just really truly gives them joy, as you were saying before. Something that they're passionate about, and that. When things are rough, brings them pleasure, that sticks out in their memory about a moment or an event or a place that they've been or whatever. And, for some it's music.
Right.
I think for both of us it's music and fashion.
Totally.
Like, to me, those things are so inextricably linked. Oh, yeah. Like, I was commenting on another blogger's page. You gotta set the moment to music. You gotta set the mood to music because that's when it makes the whole thing. Like, and for me, like getting dressed is about hearing. Sometimes it's like hearing a song and being like, "This is my vibe," and then I go and find the outfit that goes with that vibe. Other times it's the opposite, and it's like, I love this and I want to put this on, and then once I've got the outfit made, I'm like, okay, now I have to create a soundtrack to go with this outfit and what I'm about to do today. So, yeah.
I wish I was a fly on the wall just to see, like, what, because, dressing really is such a process. Everybody has their own process, so. Yeah, so I'm psyched to see what you're going to show and psyched to show what, what I've got. And, so we're going to recollect and get back to
do a little fashion show.
Get back to it.
All right. Okay, so Charles, Aria, and this is Iman, correct?
This is Iman.
This is Iman.
She's my favorite man. She is used a lot.
So all of us are wearing Charles Lord.
Yes.
This is from my Sans Label collection. And so my Sans Label collection is really about sustainable fashion. It's about reusable fabrics. Everything from that collection has either been, like it was either made from scarf or vintage fabric that I was gifted or I found someplace. I've taken other garments apart to make something new, but like a total new design versus just selling a vintage piece that's as is. So it's vintage-esque, but it's completely new garment, new design that I've come up with. Yeah. So that's what this piece is. This is sort of just like a wrap over tunic with the hood.
Show them the back.
how it just sort of opens and flows, and so you can wear it. I mean, this is a unisex piece also with Sans Label. I like to do genderless pieces.
Yes.
And it's just easy fashion. Like, it's not about
It can be
a brand.
worn in so many ways.
Yes.
Like this can be worn like how it's styled here.
Styled with just
the
the pants, yeah.
Or it's over a swimsuit.
Exactly.
You know, just hanging out of the pool. The fabrics, you know, are more breathable.
Exactly.
So that,
and I've made this for men and women, so
I love it.
it's very easy.
It's just effortless chic, which is what we're talking about.
And then Aria is wearing a vintage piece from Charles Lord, just because I designed this one.
Is this vintage already?
Well, maybe it's not vintage, but I did this in 2010.
Yeah, this was a while ago. I bought this at your
Yeah.
sample sale.
Exactly. Yeah.
That
So
you
the sample
had-
sale, I think in 2011 or 12, something like that. Yeah.
Yes,
And
I
so
love
I
it.
have this exact same piece, same dimensions and everything. And so again, versatile. It's nothing but like a T shape. It's so easy. I love this. Is like the basic vintage, not vintage, but tunic that like in
The silhouette.
in the what's the word I'm trying to come with? Like the ancient history, like
Yes.
in
The
historic
most basic
costume.
shape.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, uh-huh.
The tunic was like the first thing, and
Yeah.
and so it's so easy, and again, it just lets the fabric and the textures and the colors speak.
Right.
And then she's wearing a custom piece that I made out of various stones, coral, and agate, and just different things.
So amazing.
There, and then we have here on Iman, excuse me, sorry, Iman.
We like
This
Iman,
piece, which
too.
has a interesting history for us, because I made this to wear to Aria's wedding in 2013.
Actually,
So,
2012. Sorry.
2012?
Yes, 2012.
Okay.
The memory.
So this is just an example of my couture. So like this would be not in the same line of these things, but would be custom ordered. It's in a silk organza. It's got sort of a Masonic feel to it in the print. That wasn't what I was necessarily going for, but I just gravitated to the fabric and was like, yes. And so it's a kimono style with
that.
ultra suede
Sleeve.
collar and cuff here, and it's just, I love this piece. But I decided, you know what, it's time
To set it free.
to set it free. And me and Ari have been talking about that, and we always talk about that. It's like, we love these things, but it's got so many
journey.
lives, and it's
Yes.
it's a journey. And so
Yes.
sometimes we keep it, and it's great for us forever. And then sometimes it's like, I got my use out of it, let it go, live with somebody else, so they
yes.
can,
Let it bring them some joy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a stunner.
Right.
So, okay, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Because, I have questions. Many. Okay, so tell me a little bit about, like, the name Sans. It's Sans, right?
Sans label.
Sans.
So Sans is French for without.
Yes.
So with my Sans label pieces, there's no label sewn in.
Yeah.
It literally is, I think, I can't remember my slogan now, but it's like, I think it's called, it's just fashion.
Right.
Buy, as in B-U-Y, buy it, buy.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, I think fashion
Attachment.
sometimes gets so overwrought with, I'm trying to tell this story and evoke this thing, and it's like, as a designer, yes, I know how that is, and I sometimes want to tell a story and want to conjure a mood, and that's kind of where this is. Like, this is couture.
Yeah.
This is like a whole thing.
It's like a showstopper.
This and this, still distinctive pieces, but there's no story to tell. It's just a one-off. I saw
Yeah.
this fabric, and I was like, I want to make a tunic out of it.
love
I had enough for two, so I made two.
And the colors.
End of story. Same thing with this. This, my mother has had in her collection, her fabric collection, for probably at least 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm taking this, and I'm going to make whatever it wants to be. It's not about a collection and a theme,
Just
and again,
whatever
the story.
it wants to be.
It's just what it wants to be, and it
freedom
doesn't
of-
matter. I'm not trying to. It may have nothing. The thing that with Sans label that connects it to Charles Lord is that it's me, but it's not necessarily the same sides of me.
It's
because I may
your-
design it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily fit within what my broader message is for my brand, but it's still me. It's still my ideas.
Right.
But just another side of me. So I didn't want it to have to be
And I think
part of
it's
something. It could stand
interesting-
alone.
Yeah, it's interesting because each, just to let the viewer know, like each piece is unique. So, this is a vintage fabric that you might only have like 2 yards of, or,
Right.
so many yards that can be custom cut into whichever silhouette you're wanting.
Exactly.
So you have a fabric collection that people can choose from, or if somebody if I'm not mistaken, can pick their own.
Oh,
and
yeah.
let you kind of do
For
their
sure,
own thing.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I have veto right. So if you bring me something,
We
and I'm
talked
just
about
like,
that a bit
this
earlier.
doesn't work. And it's not so much that I don't like it, but oftentimes people who don't create garments, like who don't sew and don't understand the science of garment making
yeah.
and the craft of it, they may have something in their mind that doesn't work because the fabric doesn't work for them. So then that's when I'll step in and be like, I get what you're trying to achieve, but that won't work. Let's work together to create something.
And that's the fun part.
Yeah.
It's like you can combine forces and combine minds on
Right.
what you want to, what the vision is.
And while we're here, let's just get to the meat of it. There's a difference between being a seamstress or a tailor and being a designer.
Yeah.
And I'm a designer.
Yeah.
And one isn't better or greater or
Yeah.
more important than the other, because I can't do what I want to do without seamstress and tailors, even though
But
I
your
can't.
construction's
Well, no,
really
I mean,
good.
I do sew,
You do
yes,
it.
but there are things that I have in mind that I want to create that I don't have the technical skill
Right.
to, or
Yeah.
I could do it, but it wouldn't be as good as a professional seamstress or tailor whose whole thing is the creation and the
Right.
construction. Very much the difference between a contractor and an architect.
Yeah.
Like an architect has the design and the idea, and they know how to build it, but they don't necessarily get into the nuts and bolts of this is how it needs to happen step by step.
Yeah.
That's where the contractor comes in. Same thing with us. The seamstress and the tailor takes the idea and says, this is how it needs to function. So some people will come to me and I'll forward them to a seamstress I know that I respect and that I know does awesome work, and will take their idea and bring it to life.
Yeah.
I get my joy from bringing my ideas to
the
life
design
with the
aspect.
client.
Yeah.
So if
So
it's
fun.
just going to be sewing something that isn't about my idea, then I'll pass it on to someone who really enjoys that process,
Yeah.
because I'll get more enjoyment
Yeah,
from the
totally.
collaboration of the
Yeah, it
making.
takes a special. I mean, there's different personalities for different, the different job.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the patience for sewing, but some people find therapy
Yes.
in running through the machine.
Exactly, exactly.
So yeah, I totally get that and understand it. I mean, I just love. I don't know. We talked about earlier the caftans, the silhouettes, how simple and how stated they are.
and
you
these
really-
are all within the caftan family.
Yeah.
Very different cuts and shapes. Yours is the T shape. Mine is sleeveless with this hood. This is more along the lines of evoking a traditional kimono, excuse me, because of the sleeves, but it's not a traditional kimono, obviously, because of there's no opening and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a caftan version of it. And a caftan can be so many different things. It's really just, as long as it's a loose, free garment,
gives you
then
movement,
it
allows
kinda- yeah.
movement. So I guess talking about price point and like where things stand, people can DM you and
Yes,
kind of
for
get
sure.
more information.
And this
about-
piece, I think I have it listed on my Instagram right now for about $75, I think. A piece like yours would go for maybe around 100, 75 to 100. Depends on the cost of the fabric. That's the other thing. I mean, with Sans Label, I'm really also about keeping it cost conscious and getting it into the hands of people who can't afford a couture piece but want a little bit of that
Something,
kind of
something
special
unique,
feel, something unique, something exclusive.
Custom,
right.
yeah.
So I try to keep everything with Sans Label like under 150, between $50 and $150.
Yeah, that's a good range.
So this one would probably be, with the fabric and everything, probably around 80 to 100. A piece like this again would be custom designed and probably would run $350 and up again, depending on the fabric. But this would be like my Charles Lord Couture line. This particular piece, because it's already made and I've worn it a couple of times or whatever, I'm selling just as a vintage piece, and
Right.
I would let this one go for $250.
Yeah.
As is,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then the jewelry. What do you think? Like,
Oh,
the,
goodness, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, I know, it's so hard
The
to
jewelry was such a last minute, like, oh, I should just grab these.
Well, I mean, if you're making
this-
it,
yeah.
and, I feel like it's part of it really is such a part of the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of if you want to jazz up a piece, like you're wearing it around the house, but you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to be seen. You can add a pop piece like this that's going to
Right.
kind of
Anytime I
give
have a
it that
virtual
element.
meeting from home,
give it a pop.
I will be usually in a caftan,
Yeah.
maybe even just a tank top,
Right.
because depending on how hot I am.
Yeah.
And before I get on the meeting, I'll throw a piece of jewelry on it, because then it looks like I'm dressed,
it
even though
looks like you made an effort.
I made an effort, even
Yes.
though I literally was just sitting here
Yeah.
in a caftan a minute ago.
Which I think is important. It's important for your own I think, for me personally, I love it because it makes me feel like, oh, like I still care.
Right, yeah.
I still care about like my presentation, when I'm going to be in front of a camera or like I'm going to be, out where I can be seen,
Right.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so this necklace I would sell for $125.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I've been doing jewelry and accessories for a while, but haven't really
so good.
really pushed it, but I think I'm going to start doing that more and more.
Yeah.
So
fun.
I'd probably say most of my jewelry pieces will range again between 50 and 200 depending on the stones
right.
and the
Exactly, yeah, because these are some, this is a beautiful, like, it has a lot of weight to it too. So cool. Yes.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for
no problem
coming over and showing me your stuff. And
thank you.
I wore this to a fashion show years ago, to Nashville Fashion Week.
Right.
Years ago.
Yeah, I think I remember the pictures. Yeah. I was like, I know that girl and that dress.
Yes, yes. So, and I love it. It's hanging in my closet, and every time I look at it, it brings me just such a dose of happiness. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring some happiness to your wardrobe.
I love it. Happiness is the key. So
cool.
Thank
so
you
Leah,
again.
let's get some of your vintage pieces on. And
Let's try
talk about those.
Let's
I get tired of playing the game.